Hi everyone. If you're joining me today, I'm guessing that you have kindergartners, first graders, or possibly even second graders that you're trying to teach virtually, and you just need some ideas to help your meetings and your live lessons go a little bit better when kids are sitting in their own homes and are distracted by certain things. So, a couple of things that I've tried today that worked pretty well with my class. One of them was having them play a game where they learn different cues. So, for example, this one is listening ears. And so I had them all point to their ears and show me where their ears are. This is listening ears. Eyes watching. So then I had them all point to their eyes. Hands to yourself. And then I taught them where the unmute button and the mute button are. So we played a game where we did mute, then we did unmute. Then we did mute, then we did unmute. And we went back and forth so that they knew where these were. Now, I do plan on teaching them more of the buttons, but that's all I did for today so that there was just a few for them to remember. Another thing that I did is I went over classroom online etiquette. I got this and the cue cards all from Teacher Pay Teacher. And so you can find them on there as well. But we went over being on time, muting yourself, turning on your video, no food or drinks, being respectful, raising your hand to talk, coming prepared, and being in a quiet room. Now, one thing that I find really important is that when they come into the room that they're already muted, because if they come into the room and they think that it is a time to talk and socialize with their friends, then they're not going to take the Zoom meeting seriously. So I had them all come in muted, and I waved to them all and told them to wave at me back. So a lot of waving, thumbs up, those kinds of things worked for my meeting. But we did have some students that were behind that came after us. So in our Zoom meeting, I went to share screen and I added a classroom timer. If you type in classroom timers, there are virtual timers that come up. One that I used was called the rocket timer. So I set the rocket timer for 2 minutes and shared the screen. All the kids could see the rocket timer going. And this is while I was waiting for other students to join the room. All the students were on mute, and the other students that were in the meeting already were watching the rocket. And anyone who joined the meeting then saw the rocket as well and knew that that's how many more minutes before we started. I decided today that that would be a good way to start all of my meetings, is using a timer so that when students come in, they see my shared screen and they know how many minutes they have to get ready before we begin. So my goal is to start all of my meetings at least 5 minutes before with a 5-minute timer. Another thing that I did was I used callbacks. So here's an example of some callbacks. I taught them today macaroni and cheese, and that they all have to say everybody freeze after I say macaroni and cheese, and then they had to wait and see what I had to say. Using these cues worked really well. And another thing that worked well was I taught my kids that after they do something, they get to give themselves a virtual hug. They get to give themselves a high five. They get to give themselves a pat on the back. They get to kiss their brain. They get to give themselves a high five like this. I gave them all of those different kinds of cues so that they had things that they could do as well. These are just a few of the ideas that I've had after my first day. There's more to come, I'm sure. But if you're struggling with keeping your kids engaged and quiet and being able to learn during your Zoom meetings, here are just some examples. I hope they work for you. Thanks.